That's better. Oh. we're beached. Steering also feels good. Lay into that. Far out. This thing is absolutely hammering. Wow. Wasn't expecting it to be sporty. G'day, I'm Paul. I have been so excited to drive this. I love my big pickup trucks, but this is an electric one, a fully electric dual cab American pickup. So I'm keen to see what this is like. It's called the Ford F-150 Lightning. It is converted to right-hand drive here in Australia because in the States, you guys have steering wheels on that side, but because we are very backwards and weird here in Australia, we have our steering wheels on that side, and that means that this car comes to Australia as a left-hand drive vehicle, and then they convert it to right-hand drive here in Australia. So it is kind of an interesting process that makes this available to people to buy here in Australia. Now, how much does it cost? This one here is the top specification. It is the extended range version. It is priced at just under 185 grand. If that is too expensive, the entire range kicks off with the fleet version, which is at just under 170 grand. And also there is actually an exclusive offer for CarExpert viewers as well. I'll run you through that shortly. Now today we're going to be doing some light off-roading. We're going to do some towing as well because people think that EVs suck for towing, but I have a theory that might challenge some of that, and I'll explain why soon. If you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this review, you can use the time codes that are on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. Now, let's talk about the design. So F-150 Lightning has a fairly unique design. It's got this light bar that runs all the way along the top there. This whole front end is closed off. Part of the reason this looks the way that it does is the storage. Actually, have a look at this. I got the key on me. So because you don't have an internal combustion engine in here, and because this is available with like a V8, so it means that you have to have this enormous space, you have this incredible bit of storage that's 400 litres in size, give you a place for your cables. This is also available, although not in Australia, because again, backwards Australia with the Pro Power Pack. So that basically means you can have up to almost 10 kilowatts of power that comes out of this port here and also at the back. So if you are buying this as an export vehicle, it can be optioned with that. The company that does this here in Australia is actually working on creating a version of this that is compliant with our backwards rules. So that should mean that you can actually operate this as a vehicle that can supply electricity to your work site, which I think is pretty cool. They have genuinely thought of everything that will let this get away as, you know, being a big, enormous electric dual cab. Now, I mentioned as well that this is all blanked out for another reason, and that is aerodynamics, because if you look at this vehicle, it's huge. It weighs just under 3 tons with this battery. This is the extended range version. That means that it is carving a big bit of pocket out of the air as it drives. So to minimize the amount of drag that's imparted on the car, they've blanked out all of this stuff because the only cooling you need for this vehicle is down below here. So that's where you're basically cooling the battery system, and that also supplies cooling for the motors as well. So that's why you have that sort of rounded front there, and this is going to be a whole lot more aerodynamically efficient than the internal combustion versions of the F-150. Full LED headlights over here. You've got front and rear parking sensors. Around the side, you've got these fairly sort of standard looking alloy wheels, graphite finish on the outside there, 20 inches in size. Now, this is what looks like a charging port, but the charging port is actually on the other side. This is just a blanking plate. You have side lights as well, because this is a big vehicle. We have compliance rules here in Australia. There's so many rules, but this is part of that compliance work. You've got a 360 camera, plastic side steps that I'm not too much of a fan of, especially if you're going to be off-roading in this, and we will do some light off-roading later to see what this is like, but plastic probably isn't going to be ideal if you do want to do anything serious. You can of course change that out for other material if you need to. Privacy glass, lightning on the side here, so this is how you know that this is the fully electric version of the F-150. So around the back here, more LED lights that wrap around the side there with Australian compliant lighting. Again, backwards rules, but it has to flash in a certain color that you can't get in the States. You've got a camera and also zone lighting, which I love. So as you approach the car, everything lights up around it. And it's just a great thing if you're going camping or the car's parked in a dark location. It gives you better visibility of what's going on. You've got a 50 and 70 mil tow ball available here. Now the reason for that, this can tow up to 4.5 tons, and that's what we're going to do today to see what it's like at its maximum towing capacity. This also has the option of a max trailer towing package. Now that means that they add additional cooling for the battery system and the electric motors so that you can actually tow and haul. And you've got a ton of payload in the tray as well. So They really have thought about this being an actual utility. Spray and bed liner over here. You've got a ruler here just in case you need to measure some stuff. This is where the other part of that Pro Power Pack is over here. So again, that's got a blanking plate on it, but if you do option that with the car, that is where it's going to sit. This is another good feature I like. You've got a step ladder to get into the rear of the vehicle. This is handy for people who don't like jumping, like me. It's a little bit hard to do, but yeah, it is just a very innovative and cool thing that we've now actually seen copied on other brands of ute as well. So close that back up. Now, let me know what you reckon in the comments section below. This is a big old chunk of money, and we do actually have an exclusive deal if you do want to buy one of these with the company that does convert them. So just go to Google, type in "Help Me Car Expert," or scan the QR code on the screen to be taken to the page to give you a better idea of the exclusive offer we have for you. But let me know what you reckon about the pricing down there. Let me know what you think about an electric dual cab ute. Do you think it makes any sense? Would you buy one? And if not, what would you buy instead? Let me know in the comments section below. Okay, so we are inside the Lightning. This is what the key looks like. You've got unlock, lock, frunk, tray, and panic, and then the Ford logo on the back. Proximity sensing key, so you can leave that in your pocket. You've got a push button start just here. So this mirrors kind of the XLT spec that they get in the States. So that means a smaller 12-inch display. Above the XLT and above that, you actually have a vertical display similar to the Mustang Mach-E, which I really like. It's sort of quite high-tech and whiz-bang. This is still fine, not the end of the world, but you know, not quite as impressive as that big sort of central display that they have there. But in saying that, there is a lot of functionality and usability here with this interior. There's like heaps of storage. You've even got stuff like the ability for this to disappear so that you can use this as a workbench. So it's clever stuff like that, you know, Ford actually thinks about when it comes to its dual cab utes. It's why they manufacture the most dual cab utes in the world. Like, it is crazy numbers of F-150 and Ranger globally. So you can see how they come to that sort of level of respect. In terms of touch points, so nice and soft there and soft over here as well. How soft are they? We've got our durometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you do want to see how this car compares to others that we've tested before, there's a link in the description below. Now, build quality. One thing I will sort of talk about here is that when you're sitting inside this car, you would have absolutely no idea that someone has moved the steering, the screen, and all the other stuff from here to here. It just looks like this is how it came out of the factory. They've done a really good job with prototyping and producing some of their own materials here to sort of create this. And one of the cool things about the company that does this is that they try and get as many of these parts from Australian suppliers. And I think it's only like 1 or 2 parts that they have to import from overseas. Everything else is either made in Australia or sourced from Australian suppliers, which I think is really cool. So it means you're employing people in Australia to convert the vehicles to right-hand drive, and in addition to that, you're also then employing people in those sub-industries. So that's pretty cool. And the way that this actually works is quite fascinating as well. So under here, and Eagle's going to show you a picture of what this looks like just near my feet, you basically have the original steering shaft goes down, and it goes into a junction box, and then it comes out this way. Then there's a rod that goes behind the dashboard there that connects into another junction box that connects into the original steering location. And it's quite fascinating because previously when I tested the Ram TRX that these guys had done, the steering wasn't very good. It was quite notchy and yeah, it just didn't feel very linear. This, on the other hand, is completely transformed with that patented junction box that they have. So we'll go for a bit of a faster drive. I'll be keen to see whether that linearity sort of continues around the ride and handling track. But from a build quality point of view, this all looks and feels really good. Now, this is what our door slam sounds like. The annoying Ford beeps. Now let's talk about infotainment. So 12-inch infotainment system, it's Ford's Sync system. So typically this is pretty good. We've used this in stacks of Ford vehicles previously. What can I tell you about it? So inbuilt Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So it's wireless, full screen integration, very easy to use. very straightforward, no sort of dramas with that. On the audio front, you have AM and FM radio, and you have a 6-speaker sound system. There is no integration of DAB digital radio. That stuff just becomes a little complicated to do in Australia because they use this Sirius XM stuff in the States, and that's not compatible with anything we have here in Australia. So the other interesting thing as well, typically Fords have apps built into them so that you can actually connect to the vehicle with your phone. Now, this car has that capability, but it's actually disabled, and the reason behind that is, as part of this being sold to fleets and to government entities and that kind of thing, it actually has to be compliant with the government's security regulations, and that means it can't have any over-the-air updatability and also no remote connectivity. And that means that this car has no remote connectivity, and that to me is probably a bit of a downside, because when I was charging this the other day, the only way I could know how much it had left and how well it was charging was to go to the charger and to look at it, or to go to the car. So I think that would be a useful thing to have. Whether you can enable that on cars that are imported to Australia, I don't know, but it would definitely be a useful thing to have. But I can also understand why fleets don't want that type of stuff if there are regulations around it. Now, this is cool as well. So you've got a number of features here in relation to the lighting. So zone lighting, similar to what they have on the Ranger. You can enable and disable that here. You can also basically set the way that it appears when you approach the car, which is great. You have the Pro Power on board selection here. So if the car is fitted with that accessory pack, you can enable it here. You've also got the ability to set departure time. So if you are charging, the car can basically be warm and ready to go by the time you leave. This feature is interesting as well. So intelligent backup power. One of the things that the guys here in Australia are actually working on at the moment is the ability for this car to not only work as vehicle to load through that Pro Power pack, but also to run as vehicle to grid. And vehicle to grid actually allows the vehicle to supply energy to the grid. It's not quite as simple as just plugging a vehicle to load capable vehicle up to the grid. You actually have to have vehicle to grid ability. And at the moment, there's only a very small selection of cars that can do that in Australia. So hopefully they come out with that, because this could actually completely change and revolutionize what this vehicle is able to do. The other thing I'll show you later on is our Pro trailer set up here as well, which is quite an intelligent system. So I'll show you that later on. Head of the driver, you've got another display. So pretty straightforward display. You've got energy left in the battery, whether it's supplying energy or whether you're regenning. Gives you an idea of whether it's in a single pedal driving mode, and then you can change what's displayed on the center of the screen there as well. Let's talk safety. So you have autonomous emergency braking, you have an auto-dimming rear vision mirror, blind spot monitors, you have front and rear parking sensors, radar cruise control with a lane keeping assistant. We'll test that out later on. You've got a 360 camera as well. I'll show you what that looks like. So quality of that's pretty decent. You can then change the camera views there. So that's looking out the front, wide front. What else have we got here? Oh, there's the bed cam. Oh, you can actually hook up additional cameras, which is cool. There's the tow bar cam, and then we should have a rear view as well. There you go. That is some pretty comprehensive cameras we've got there. This is what the horn sounds like. Now, how about your practicality? We will start with your connectivity. So you've got a 12-volt outlet just here. You've got USB-A, USB-C. In the center here, you've got another USB-A and another USB-C port. There is no wireless phone charging, which I was a little bit disappointed with. I think $200,000+ wireless phone charging would be good. Outside of that, though, you have so much storage. So down here, cup holders here, you've got storage next to the driver's foot. You've got this whole massive storage section through the center, dual tiered storage inside the doors, the storage up the top here, 2 sets of glove boxes up and down, Sonny's holder up the top here. Like, they have genuinely thought about everything here. There is so much space and storage inside this cabin. Very, very impressed with that. On the comfort front, you've got dual zone automatic climate control. You've got heated seats for the front row, heated steering wheel as well. And then on the comfort front, these seats are fantastic. I've done about 1,000 kilometers in this over the past few days, and this has been such a nice cruiser. These seats are great. Electric adjustment for driver and front passengers. You can go forwards, backwards. Your backrest can go forwards, backwards. You can lift the back of the seat. You can also adjust your lumbar as well. Steering offers both tilt and reach adjustment. And the other cool thing as well is you can actually move the pedals too. If you can't reach those, if you've got weirdly short or weirdly long feet, they are adjustable as well. Now let's do a reach test. A little bit hard to reach the outer edges of that screen, but aside from that, it's not too bad. Now, second row, what's it like back here? This is cool. So you can lift this entirely out of the way, and when you do that, look at that floor. It is completely flat. It's like a boot in an SUV, and then you've got these little bits of storage here as well. You can also drop the seat backs as well, which is where you're going to find some of your recovery equipment. Now, let's have a little sticky beak here. How much room we have. Look at that. That is unreal. This is what a dual cab ute should be like. My seat is pretty much all the way back, and I've got acres of knee room. Tow room's great. Headroom is fantastic. Yeah, it is a really impressive setup. So cup holders in the doors. I have USB A and C down there, plus a 12 volt outlet and air vents. More cup holders here, map pockets. Really thought of everything here. All right, let's see how far the window goes down. All the way. Very nice. Now, before we go on the road, let's talk about battery and charging. This being the extended range, it has a 131 kilowatt hour usable battery. So it's a big old thing. Lithium ion battery. You have both AC and DC charging. AC, it'll charge up to around 11 kilowatts, and DC at a peak of 150 kilowatts with an average rate of around 133 kilowatts. Has a WLTP driving range of just over 500 kilometers. So not bad specs. Let's see what it's like in reality when we actually go for a spin. Okay, so we are on the road now in the F-150 Lightning. One of the first things I noticed when you're rolling onto the throttle and rolling out of it, you can actually hear the electric car sounds. It's like that sort of whirring noise. I think that's pretty cool because, you know, internal combustion cars, they all have their own unique sound. Electric cars don't really have a sound, but actually being able to hear the noise of that sort of energy being turned into motion, I think is good. I'm glad that it's not just completely dead silent. So that's a tick in my book. It does also have that sort of kind of annoying beeping noise when you're in reverse. That is for pedestrian safety, but if I pop that into reverse, sort of like a weird beeping sound, but anyway. So this particular version of the Lightning, it's basically based on the XLT spec in the States with the extended range battery, and it's an absolute whopper. So you've got two electric motors, one on the front axle, one on the rear. It produces over 400 kilowatts of power and just over 1,000 Newton meters of torque. It is just an enormous amount of power and torque, and it's one of those things where you can actually get away with having, you know, motors like that give you that incredible power and torque, because it's not like an internal combustion car where it's constantly burning lots and lots of fuel the bigger the engine is. Yes, you have the additional weight here of these motors, but it's not like it is using considerably more energy than a vehicle with less power. And that means that at any given point you can pin the throttle down and it just slams you back in the seat. Like, it is a tremendous amount. And for a vehicle that weighs almost 3,000 kilos, it really just doesn't feel like it has that much weight behind it. So I think that's pretty cool. Now let's talk about energy consumption. So Ford claims a combined average of just over 25 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. I reset this when I picked up the car, which was 650 Ks ago, and we're currently sitting on 29 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks. When I was driving on the freeway, those freeway stints, it was actually averaging around 23 or 24. That to me is actually a pretty impressive figure. We've driven Audi vehicles before, like the e-trons, that have used this much energy. So for a vehicle that is this big, using so little compared to its size and its utility, I actually think that's not too bad. I was expecting that to be far worse than it actually is. To put that into context, that's probably twice as bad as something like a Tesla Model Y in terms of its energy use. The other great thing as well is single pedal driving. It's not quite as refined as something you'd come to expect in a Tesla, but it's pretty much bang on. It sort of slows you down nicely, comes to a sort of nice stop, but just sometimes it can be a little bit abrupt in terms of how it works. But it's a good system, and I'm glad that it has that. A lot of modern EVs today don't have single pedal driving still, which I find really quite bizarre. Now let's talk about the steering. So this is all done through that junction box system that I mentioned earlier. This is really good. Like, really, really good. They've done such a good job in terms of that conversion. Even here at low speeds, I'm not getting any sort of dead spots or any heavy spots. It is just really nice and communicative. It actually just feels like an OE steering setup. It doesn't feel like it's routed through any joints like it is here. So I think that side of things is very good. I'll be keen to see once the speed picks up and we go for a faster lap what that feels like. But yeah, this feels great. Now, what about your road noise? It's really quiet in here. So even though you're sitting on big tyres, big wheels, there isn't really a great deal of road noise that comes into the cabin, even on coarse chip roads. So I think they've done a good job with that. The ride is also fantastic. It is, for such a big vehicle, it rides beautifully. It's nice and soft and comfortable. Really haven't sort of gone over the top in terms of softness or firmness. It's just a nice balance there in between. And I think having that sort of unsprung mass where it is, I think probably helps, but they've done a good job with the tune there. Okay, let's dial up 130 k's now. We want to see what this is like across our sine waves. We test every car at this speed to see what body control's like. Oh, she bouncy. Yeah, okay, so that softness comes at the compromise of body control. It is sort of very soft there as it hits those undulations. Not the end of the world, but the more weight you add into the vehicle, the more you're going to notice that sort of bouncing around and being quite springy. Okay, bumpy road time. This is where we really figure out what's what. Do this at 90 k's an hour. It just gives us an idea of what it's like on this shocker of a road. So actually doesn't feel too bad through there. Let's see what it's like on our condensed sine wave that's coming up here. So we'll really shake the car around a little bit. Here we go. Oh yeah. That has shaken the living daylights out of that. But everything is still holding together perfectly fine. So I think it just goes to show you that as they learn with this left-hand drive to right-hand drive conversion, they really do iron out all the kinks there. And even on a road like that shakes the living daylights out of the car, it all just holds together really nicely. So big tick there. Okay, drive modes. You've got normal, sport, off-road, tow and haul. Let's whack her into sport and go for a lap around the track. Let's see what this feels like. This is a big vehicle, but I'm curious to see what the steering feels like and what the handling is like as well. Yeah, look, it does feel big, but oh my goodness, it has got some torque. Steering also feels good. Lay into that, far out. This thing is absolutely hammering. Far out. I was not expecting this. The brakes feel great as well. They're really nice and bitey. All right, so let's cycle on the back here. A little bouncy there through the corners when you hit a mid-corner bump, but getting a fair bit of feel there through the brakes and also the steering. I think the steering is surprisingly good. Even when the speed picks up here, it is still giving us plenty of communication without any dead spots, which is not really what I was expecting from a system like that. Got a punch on the back straight. Nice. Wow. Wasn't expecting it to be sporty. It goes all right for such a big car. Now let's test these semi-autonomous systems. We use the 3 outer lanes of the bowl here to see how well the car will hold itself in the lane. I'll be curious to see what this is like with this being converted now. So set that to 70 k's an hour. All right, so in this first lane, it's doing a good job, nice and centered there, which is good. All right, we'll jump over to the next lane. Okay, wait for that to activate. There it is. Nice, that is doing a good job there. Pretty centered. All right, let's check this outer lane. The Ranger works in here, and I'm pretty sure they use the same system, so let's see how willing it is to hold on here. So I'll let go of that wheel. It's crossed the line there. No good. So just those 2 lanes before it gives up on life. Okay, let's do some performance testing. They reckon this will do 0 to 100 in around 4 seconds. So I'm going to whack that into sport mode. We'll turn traction control off. We'll see how willing it is to get up and move a little bit. We'll go all the way through to 120 as well, just so we can see what our overtaking time is like, but here we go. Oh my goodness. All right, there's 80, 100, wow, and 120. That is tremendously quick for such a big vehicle. So that is 0 to 100, 4.61 seconds and 80 to 120, 3.05 seconds. That is bloody quick. That is really impressive. All right, it is time to do a stop from 100. See what the brake and tyre package is like. Alrighty. It's a big vehicle, so I'll be interested to see how it goes. All right, felt like it took a while there. There was a little hesitation when I jumped on the brakes. 3.37 seconds, 45.18 metres, so it's actually not that bad. We've seen far worse in much smaller vehicles, so I think a lot of that will come down to the tyres. These Goodyears we've experienced on Ranger that they're not fantastic for stopping, so that stopping distance could be a little bit better, but that's not too bad. If you do want to see how this car compares to other cars that we've tested before in terms of acceleration, stopping, all that sort of stuff, there is a link in the description below. So let's pop this into reverse and see how quickly it goes in reverse. 52 kilometers an hour. And I tell you what, it gets there in a lightning flash too. That is bloody impressive. Okay, it is time to do a little bit of light off-roading. I'm interested to see what this is going to be like because I don't think we've driven a full EV off-road here. So see how it goes. Just some high-level specs. Approach angle of just over 25 degrees. Departure angle, a little over 24 degrees. So pretty sort of normal numbers for this type of vehicle. Where it gets interesting though is you don't have a driveline between the front and the rear. You just have two individual electric motors. And that actually gives the manufacturers so much more tuning ability when it comes to off-road driving and traction controls. This even has a locking differential, which I haven't seen before on an electric vehicle. It basically allows the rear motor to turn the rear wheels at the same speed, which is effectively the same effect you would have if you had a rear locking diff. It's also got an off-road mode as well that caters for things like hill descent controls. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Ground clearance, a little over 200 mils, so it should be fine for what most people are doing. We'll see what it's like on our rocks as well. Now, what we would normally do is drive over our offset mogul in two-wheel drive. Given this is all-wheel drive, I'll just go over it anyway, just in normal mode, just so we can see what traction control is like, and then I'll come back around the other direction. So basically, when we're driving over this, the idea is that we want one of the rear wheels to come off the ground. The wheelbase on these big American trucks isn't quite compatible with our off-road track, but let's see how it goes anyway. So that rear wheel is kind of lifted there, so that's giving us that sort of articulation. I'll roll onto the throttle now. So there you go, it's not really working. Traction control is just coming in and stopping that immediately. I'll just try to turn traction control off. See how that goes. And that's not really helping either. So what I'll do, I'll pop this into off-road mode, but what I'll do, I'm not going to lock the rear diff just now. We'll just see what it's like in terms of off-road traction control. So lean on that. I can feel that giving it a bit more freedom. And as I roll a little bit more onto the throttle, it's basically allowing the wheels to stop spinning a little bit easier there. So that works much better. So one push of a button and then it transforms it from a basic stability control and traction control for on-road driving to it being catered for off-road driving. So this time around, let's go back and give this a shot one more time. But this time what we're going to do is we're going to lock the rear diff just to see what it's like in this direction. All right, let's see what this is like now coming in the opposite direction. Now in this direction, we'll have a front wheel that kind of leaves the ground a little bit. Well, we do typically, but I don't know how it'll go here with this wheelbase. So just rolling onto the throttle now. That is an absolute piece of cake. It just walks over that without any dramas. That locking rear diff setting definitely helps there. So, all right, let's go around to our hill and see how that performs. So this has been chopped up a little bit, sort of interesting to see how this goes. Normally we would do this in low range with the rear diff locked, but given this has no low range, we'll see how it goes. I'm just hoping the throttle isn't too sharp because that'll just invoke a heap of wheel slip, but we'll see what happens here in the off-road mode. So I'm gonna go up first just with gradual throttle and then I'll come back again and we'll go up with coming to a stop. Parking sensors off. Okay, so this is gradual throttle, rear diff locked. Oh, see, the wheels slip there and then the motor got a bit of surge and cut off immediately. Had it not cut off, we would have easily gone up there. So I'm going to do that one more time just to see if that's something that is repeatable. Yeah, because that's not very good. It shouldn't be allowing the motor to surge and then just cutting torque to it, because that's where you're going to end up in this issue. So let's give that one more try. So just gradual throttle. I'm not changing throttle here at all. So there's a little bit of slip. Okay, that's better. Oh. we're beached. Oh, that's annoying. Yeah, we're beached. So I'm going to need just a tiny bit of a run up there. So it looks like all of the battery components there cause this thing to really not have a great breakover angle. And I haven't looked up what the breakover angle is, but given how easily that's beaching itself there, I suspect the breakover angle isn't very good. So that basically means that when you've got a sort of hill like that, when the car comes over it, it's beaching itself in the center. And with this, you've got a front motor and a rear motor that sort of hang down low, and a battery pack as well. So it appears that is stopping this from being able to climb with ease there. But anyway, let's see how it goes through our little mud bath here. And then we have our descent on the other side. So as far as I can tell, maybe this doesn't have a hill descent control. It could just be built into the car, but I can't see any buttons here for hill descent control, so we'll see what happens. So the good feature here with the 360 camera is I can actually see over the front, so I'll be able to line the car up just so we're approaching that correctly. Let's see what happens here once there's that high tail again, or the high top. Poor breakover, whatever you want to call it. I'll just let go of the brake, we'll see what happens. Yeah, no hill descent control there. So you're basically having to ride the brake. Not great, because basically the single pedal drive mode is switched off in off-road mode, which means you can't actually use the motors to slow the vehicle down. Well, as far as I can tell, it looks like it does go into regen, but it sort of runs away from itself there. So yeah, okay. A couple of little things that I think that they could definitely work on there in terms of off-roading. Now, take two. This time, I'm going to basically come to a stop and then try and accelerate away just to see how it goes. Our tyres are probably caked in mud at the moment, but we'll see how it goes anyway. So, get up to around here. Whoops. Come to a stop. See if it's got a hill hold function, and then I'll accelerate. And I'll probably have to carry a bit of speed so we don't get stuck again over the top there. Excellent. So that took off nicely there, but... It's not allowing us to take off from there. I'll have to go back a touch, I think. Let's try that one more time. Yeah, once it falls into that little rut there, it's not interested in going. So I think that probably Ford needs to be looking at just control of wheel slip there when it's in a situation like that, because the problem with an electric motor is it has instant torque, so it spins up immediately. Second it spins up, it's basically just going to get stuck there every single time. So yeah, a couple of issues there: breakover angle, and also how much surge you're getting to those motors, and also regen on downhills. I think that they're the three things that they need to work on to make this a more competent off-roader. Okay, now it's time for the rocks. This will be interesting, because typically what you want to do with rocks is ride the brake and the throttle so that you can crawl over this stuff. And in EVs, typically you can't do that. Actually, yeah, this is working great. I can actually ride the brake with the throttle, which is good. Nice and comfortable in here as well. Now, I am super mindful of the fact that we have a battery pack beneath the vehicle as well. You don't really want to drop the vehicle onto a rock while we're doing this, but it seems to be adequate clearance. We have a little touchdown there. It's actually really quite comfortable. The ride is so soft that it absorbs all this stuff, and it's actually letting me do this brake and throttle thing without any dramas at all. So very good. There you go. That was very event-free, which is good. Okay, so we've just hooked up our trailer. It's a big old thing, 4.5 tons, so we are at capacity here. So basically this has Pro Trailer support, so we want to add the trailer here so the car knows what is behind it. So we go add new trailer, we'll just do lang. All right. So, yes, continue to set up. So it is electric, save that. Try the brake effort, let's go medium. Now length, so the trailer is just under 4.5 and then width is 2.3. Height is quite high, it is 3.5. Okay, weight, so it is roughly 4,500 kilos at the moment. Okay, confirm. Okay, so that is all done. So it says it will take a few miles of towing to get this, to get the accurate range. So basically it's able to adjust the range now for the vehicle with the trailer taken into effect, which is pretty cool. Then we have stacks of different features here like trailer blind spots that will take the length of the trailer into account when it comes to giving us our blind spot assistance. There was a lot of stuff there. Cool. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to set off now on our hill road. This is actually the road that we use for our big ute and SUV mega test. So if you do want to watch that, click up here. Great video. We basically compared all of the dual cab utes on the market, all of the SUVs that are off-road capable as well, to see how good they are at towing. Now this car has this Pro trailer feature. We need a sticker and a couple of other things to make it work. So I'm just going to show you some overlay of what exactly it does, but definitely a handy feature if you don't really know how to drive a vehicle with a trailer. But my theory on this is, yes, a trailer will absolutely sap energy from your vehicle when towing. Look at this. It says on a full charge, this will travel 250 kilometers with the trailer that we have attached to it. And that's with the information that I've entered in. So that is like half the range that you would normally get. But my theory is that if you are traveling to a destination and you have to go back the way that you came, if you do get an elevation change, you're actually able to recoup energy on the way down the hill. So watch this here, that's 80 kilometers of range. Our circuit here is around 5 or 6 kilometers. So what we'll do, we'll go for a little drive. We've got one steep hill that I'll give you a bit of feedback on and how this feels with such a big load on it. Then we have a long descent, and I want to see how much energy that will actually plumb back into the battery that otherwise you would have lost as friction or heat in a regular car. Okay, so look, first impressions here. When I hit the throttle, really doesn't feel like there's much on the back. 1,000 Newton meters of torque will make a 4.5 ton trailer load feel very light, which is great news. So the thing is with this trailering system that Ford has, they really want to give you an accurate estimate of how much range you have. And this hill road that we have here kind of just simulates a regular country road in Australia that you would experience. So we've done our uphill. Here comes part of our downhill section before we get to our really steep uphill. So right here, you can actually see the regen. I haven't had to touch the brakes once yet. It's now in full deep regen, and I've just not touched the brakes there at all. So I'll need to touch them as we approach the hairpin here. That gives us a little bit more regen as we go around, and then we'll start our climb out of the gully. Tell you what, some of the dual cab utes we tested during our big test struggled so much out of the gully there. They just had no torque. We're at half power availability here. If I just roll onto the throttle even harder, it just zips out of there without any dramas at all. Okay, so we're about to approach our steep hill climb here. There's just a descent into it before we get there. All right, here it comes here. So this is very steep. Like I said, some of the dual cab utes really struggle to get up here. 15.5% grade. Let's see how it goes with the F-150 Lightning. So on the throttle there, gaining speed with no dramas. Let me just get stuck right into it. So that is full throttle. Front wheels are slipping there, but it's gaining speed like effortlessly. There you go. That was very easy to do. So it just made light work of that hill. Obviously that's going to chew through your battery. We've already gone 4 kilometers of range, and we've only driven 2 kilometers there, so you can see that it is going to have an effect on your actual battery range. Okay, so this is the part that I'm excited about. It's our long descent into the roundabout where we start all of our testing. I want to see how much range we're able to add as we go down here. So you've got to remember that when you start at a point and finish at the same point, any elevation change, you're going to have basically net zero at the end. So it means that every sort of inch you climb, you're going to descend as well. So in theory, this should now be able to plumb energy back into the battery so that we get some net benefit once we reach the bottom where our starting point was. So let's see how it goes. Nice long gradual descent. This is exactly what you want for this type of regen. Okay, so we are reaching our starting point again here. So I'll just bring this to a stop and see where we ended up in terms of range. Okay, there you go. So 74 kilometers. So we effectively use 6 kilometers of range there to travel 5 or 6 kilometers. So it's pretty much exactly what you thought it would be. But the point I'm trying to make is some of the really steep sections, I was able to take advantage of this being an electric vehicle and then recoup some of that energy. So if we were driving a regular internal combustion car and I had to stay on it through some of those sections, we would have used a whole lot of fuel but never actually got any of that back. So here on the other hand, we're actually able to use some energy and then recoup it on all the downhill sections. But ultimately, if you are towing something and something big like we are now, it is going to chew through your battery, and you can see it evidence there that you're going to lose about half your battery range towing something this size. That means charging it, stopping, and probably disconnecting a trailer to charge it as well. So just something to keep in mind if you are interested in buying an electric ute like this. So the Ford F-150 Lightning, just remember we do have an exclusive deal, and that is for anyone watching this video or going to our site, just use the QR code on the screen or Google Help Me CarExpert. Look, we've tested this literally the same way that we would test any other car, and it really does excel. It is so much fun to drive. It has so much torque. And one of the things that you realize is after you've spent a lot of time with an EV, I've owned EVs now for 5 or 6 years, you kind of become used to the whole battery situation when you need a charge and the things to look out for, like cold weather and in this case towing as well. So I think that is just something worth considering. If you're diving into an EV for the first time, it is worth just taking all of that stuff into account. But this as a vehicle is really good. The range without towing and without all the payload stuff isn't too bad, and that is pretty much what everyone is doing day to day with their dual cab utes. Once you start loading it up, it will start eating into that, but 130 kilowatt hour battery is going to be sufficient even with load to travel longer distances. So I'm keen for your feedback. What do you think? Is it still too expensive? I think there's some work to be done on that price. Let me know in the comments section below, but just over $200,000 gets you into one of these, and I'm keen to see what people think about it. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But till next time, take it easy.